When a woman is 25, she may still be exploring what excites her, what attracts her, what feels meaningful. But by 40, 50, 60, life has already taught her things. She has been disappointed. She has trusted the wrong people. She has given chances she wishes she hadn't given. She has learned how painful it is when someone seems interested in her body but never bothers to understand her mind. And that's why the first place most women over 40 want to be touched isn't physical at all. It's emotional. It's the part of her that wonders whether someone truly sees her. Not the role she plays, not the responsibilities she carries, not the version of herself she presents to the world. Her. The real person underneath all of it. I remember a woman in her early 50s once telling me something I never forgot. She said, "The older I get, the less impressed I am by compliments. What I notice now is attention." That sentence stayed with me because attention is different from attraction. A man can be attracted to a woman without truly seeing her, but genuine attention requires curiosity. It requires presence. It requires slowing down long enough to notice things other people miss. The way her voice changes when she talks about something she loves. The way her eyes become distant when a certain memory surfaces. The way she pauses before answering a question that's more personal than she's used to hearing. Those moments matter, more than most men realize, because many women spend years feeling invisible in a very strange way. People still see them, but fewer people try to know them. And that creates a quiet loneliness that rarely gets discussed. A loneliness that doesn't come from being alone, it comes from feeling unseen. So when a man walks into her life and makes her feel understood, something shifts. Not dramatically, not immediately, but deeply. And that shift begins long before any physical touch ever happens. It begins in the place where real connection lives, the human need to feel recognized, to feel valued, to feel like someone is paying attention to the parts of us we've stopped expecting anyone to notice. And that's where the story really begins. One of the most painful things that happens as people get older is that they become experts at hiding what hurts them. Not because they're dishonest, not because they're emotionally unavailable, but because experience teaches caution. A woman over 40 often carries entire chapters of her life that she rarely talks about. The relationship that looked perfect from the outside but slowly emptied her from the inside. The years she spent taking care of everyone else while quietly neglecting herself. The dreams she postponed. The disappointments she survived. The moments she cried when nobody saw. And here's the part many men miss. She isn't looking for someone to rescue her from those experiences. She isn't waiting for a hero. She's looking for someone who can sit beside those experiences without becoming uncomfortable. That is a very different thing. Many men hear emotional vulnerability and immediately feel pressure to solve something, to fix it, to repair it, to make the sadness disappear. But emotional connection rarely works that way. Sometimes the deepest form of touch is simply making someone feel safe enough to be honest. Think about that. When was the last time you felt completely understood by another person? Not admired, not praised, understood. Most people struggle to answer that question, and women over 40 are no different. In fact, many become even more sensitive to authenticity because they've spent enough years around performance. They've heard beautiful words from people who didn't mean them. They've received attention that disappeared the moment things became complicated. They've experienced charm without consistency. That's why confidence alone isn't enough anymore. Looks alone aren't enough anymore. Even chemistry alone isn't enough. Because what begins attracting her is often something much quieter. Emotional steadiness. There's something surprisingly attractive about a man who doesn't seem desperate for approval. A man who listens because he's interested, not because he's waiting for his turn to speak. A man who remains present even when conversations become uncomfortable. A man who doesn't panic when emotions enter the room. And I want you to imagine something. Imagine a woman sitting across from you at dinner. She's smiling, she's engaged, the conversation is flowing. But underneath that smile is a question she's not asking aloud. A question many women never ask aloud. Is this man interested in knowing me? Or is he interested in the idea of me? Those are two completely different experiences. The first feels intimate, the second feels lonely. Because being idealized can sometimes feel just as isolating as being ignored. When someone only sees the version of you they want to see, they don't actually see you. They see a fantasy. And women who have lived long enough can usually feel the difference. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. That's why small moments often matter more than grand gestures. Remembering something she mentioned weeks ago, asking a thoughtful question nobody else asks, noticing when her mood changes, being curious about her perspective instead of rushing to explain your own. These things sound simple, but emotionally they are powerful, because every one of them communicates the same message: I see you. And for many women over 40, that's where attraction begins to deepen. Not through intensity, not through pressure, not through games, but through the rare experience of feeling emotionally visible. The truth is, most people spend years trying to be loved, but underneath that desire is something even more fundamental. They want to be understood. And the older someone gets, the more precious that feeling becomes. Because understanding is what makes a person feel safe enough to lower the walls they spent years building. And those walls, they're often much higher than they appear. The thing about emotional walls is that most people imagine them incorrectly. They picture coldness, distance, a lack of interest. But that isn't how emotional walls usually look. Sometimes they look like confidence. Sometimes they look like independence. Sometimes they look like a woman who seems perfectly fine on her own. And often, she is. That's what makes this so easy to misunderstand. A woman over 40 typically doesn't need someone to complete her life. She has already built a life. She has responsibilities, routines, friendships, experiences. She knows how to spend a Saturday alone without feeling lost. She knows how to solve her own problems. She knows how to recover after disappointment. From the outside, that strength can make her seem difficult to reach. But underneath that strength is still a human being, still someone who wants connection, still someone who wants warmth, still someone who wants to feel emotionally close to another person. The difference is that she values that closeness differently now. When we're younger, attention can feel exciting all by itself. As we get older, attention without sincerity becomes exhausting. And that's where so many men accidentally lose the opportunity for deeper connection. They mistake independence for emotional unavailability. They assume that because she isn't chasing validation, she doesn't need affection. But emotional needs don't disappear with age. They simply become more refined. A woman who has spent years building emotional resilience often becomes incredibly sensitive to how people make her feel. Not what they say, how they make her feel. There's a difference. You can say all the right words and still create distance. You can say very little and create closeness. Because emotional connection is often happening underneath the conversation. It's happening in the atmosphere, the energy, the feeling she experiences when she's around you. Does she feel judged or accepted? Does she feel pressured or relaxed? Does she feel like she needs to perform, or can she simply be herself? These questions matter more than most men realize. I once spoke with a woman who described the beginning of her favorite relationship in a way that surprised me. She didn't mention attraction first. She didn't mention chemistry. She didn't mention appearance. She said, "I felt peaceful around him." Peaceful. Not excited, not overwhelmed, not obsessed. Peaceful. At first glance, that sounds almost boring, until you understand what she meant. Peace is rare, especially after years of emotional chaos, disappointments, misunderstandings, and uncertainty. For someone who has experienced enough turbulence, peace can feel incredibly attractive. Because peace creates safety, and safety creates openness. And openness allows intimacy to grow. The irony is that many men spend enormous amounts of energy trying to impress women. Yet the thing that often draws a mature woman closer is not how impressive you are. It's how safe she feels being imperfect around you. Can she admit fears without feeling weak? Can she share doubts without feeling judged? Can she disagree with you without fearing rejection? Can she be honest without needing to carefully manage your reactions? These questions operate beneath the surface. Most conversations never mention them, yet they influence attraction every single day. And when a woman discovers someone who gives her that sense of emotional ease, something begins to soften. Not because she's lowering her standards, not because she's becoming vulnerable too quickly, but because she no longer feels the need to protect every part of herself. The armor becomes lighter, the smile becomes more genuine, the conversations become deeper. And that's when something beautiful starts to happen. She stops wondering whether she's being understood and starts wondering whether this connection might actually be real. And that moment, when she begins wondering whether the connection is real, is far more important than most men realize. Because this is where many relationships quietly succeed or quietly fall apart. Not because of some dramatic mistake, not because somebody said the wrong thing, but because reality starts replacing imagination. In the beginning, everyone is curious, everyone is interesting, everyone is showing their best side. But eventually, life enters the picture. Stress enters the picture. Bad days enter the picture. Disagreements enter the picture. And this is where emotional touch becomes something deeper. A woman over 40 is often paying attention to things she never would have noticed 20 years ago. How do you respond when you're frustrated? How do you treat people who can't offer you anything? How do you behave when you're disappointed? What happens when things don't go your way? Because character becomes easier to recognize over time. And women who have lived through enough experiences tend to notice patterns very quickly. Not because they're cynical, because they're observant. They've seen promises that sounded beautiful. They've heard words that later turned out to be empty. So they begin trusting consistency more than excitement. And consistency is not glamorous. It rarely creates dramatic stories. It doesn't generate the same rush as uncertainty, but it creates something much more valuable: trust. Think about how rare trust really is. Not casual trust, real trust. The kind that allows someone to reveal parts of themselves they've hidden from almost everyone else. The kind that lets them admit what scares them, what hurts them, what they regret, what they still dream about. Many women carry stories they've told very few people, not because they're secrets, but because those stories feel fragile. They contain heartbreak, embarrassment, loss, hope, and sharing them requires courage. That's why emotional closeness is never built through pressure. It grows through patience, through consistency, through moments that seem small but accumulate over time. A remembered detail, a thoughtful question, a reliable presence, a conversation that continues where it left off. These moments tell her something powerful. This person is paying attention. And attention, when it's genuine, becomes one of the most meaningful forms of affection. Because attention says, "You matter enough for me to notice." That message reaches places compliments often cannot. And here's something else many men don't hear often enough. Women over 40 are usually not looking for perfection. They know perfection doesn't exist. Life has already taught them that. What they're often looking for is emotional honesty. Someone who doesn't pretend to have everything figured out. Someone who can admit mistakes. Someone who can be strong without needing to appear invincible. Because there is a strange kind of loneliness that comes from being around people who are always performing strength. It creates distance. It makes authentic connection difficult. Real closeness requires something softer, something more human. The ability to say, "This is who I am," without hiding behind an image, without constantly managing impressions, without turning every interaction into a performance. And when a woman encounters that kind of authenticity, she often responds in a way that's easy to miss. She starts revealing more of herself. Not all at once, slowly, naturally. A little story here, a private thought there, a fear she usually keeps hidden, a dream she rarely talks about. Those moments are not random, they're invitations. Not invitations to impress her, not invitations to take control, invitations to understand her more deeply. And the men who recognize that difference are often the ones who create the strongest emotional connections, because they realize something many people spend years learning. The deepest form of intimacy rarely begins with being desired. It begins with being understood. And this is where the conversation becomes a little uncomfortable, because being understood sounds beautiful when we hear it, but in reality, it's also frightening. Why? Because once someone truly sees you, there are no more places to hide. No carefully edited version of yourself, no polished image, no role, just you. And for many women over 40, that vulnerability carries weight. They've spent years learning how to protect themselves, years learning how to recover, years learning how to function even when life didn't go according to plan. So when genuine emotional connection begins to develop, it often awakens something unexpected. Not excitement first, fear. A quiet fear. The fear of hoping again, the fear of trusting again, the fear of believing that someone might stay. People rarely talk about this, but some of the strongest, most independent people are also the most careful with their hearts. Not because they're cold, because they know the cost of disappointment. They've paid it before. And that's why mature attraction often looks different from what movies portray. It's not always dramatic. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it's a woman thinking about a conversation long after it ended. Sometimes it's her remembering something you said days later. Sometimes it's the feeling of calm she experiences when your name appears on her phone. Those moments may seem small, but psychologically they're incredibly meaningful. Because attraction is often less about intensity and more about emotional significance. The people who affect us most are rarely the loudest people in our lives. They're the people who make us feel something meaningful about ourselves. A woman over 40 may be drawn toward the person who makes her feel heard, valued, respected, emotionally safe. Not because those qualities are exciting in a flashy way, but because they're rare, and rarity creates value. Think about how many conversations people have every day that leave no emotional impact at all. Words exchanged, minutes passed, nothing remembered. Then occasionally someone says something that stays with you, not because it was clever, because it felt sincere. And sincerity has a way of lingering, especially in a world where so much communication feels rushed, distracted, or superficial. The truth is, many women spend years adapting to being misunderstood. People assume things about them. People define them by age, by appearance, by responsibilities, by relationship status, by roles they've carried for decades. Yet very few people stop and ask, what is it actually like to be you? That question matters more than you might think, because every human being has an inner world, a private emotional landscape, a collection of fears, memories, hopes, regrets, and desires. And one of the most profound experiences we can have is feeling like another person genuinely wants to understand that world. Not control it, not judge it, understand it. That's why emotional attention becomes so powerful. It's not about saying the perfect thing, it's about creating a space where another person feels free to be real, where they don't have to impress you, convince you, or earn your approval. And when a woman experiences that kind of acceptance, something begins happening almost automatically. The walls don't collapse, the defenses don't disappear overnight, but the distance between two people starts shrinking. Conversation becomes connection, connection becomes trust, and trust becomes the foundation for something much deeper than attraction alone. Something that lasts long after first impressions fade, something that reaches beyond appearances, beyond age, beyond temporary excitement. Something that touches the heart before it ever touches anything else. So let's come back to the question we started with. What is the first place many women over 40 want to be touched? Not their hand, not their waist, not their body at all. It's the part of them that has quietly wondered whether anyone still sees who they really are. The part hidden beneath responsibilities, beneath strength, beneath experience, beneath all the layers life has added over the years. And maybe that's why so many men become confused. They focus on attraction while missing connection. They focus on being impressive while overlooking presence. They focus on being noticed while forgetting to notice. Yet the women who leave the deepest marks on our lives are rarely the ones we simply looked at. They're the ones we truly saw. And the same is true in reverse. I want you to imagine something. Imagine meeting a woman who has spent years carrying her life with quiet dignity. She's learned to handle problems on her own. She's learned not to expect too much from people. She's learned how to smile through difficult seasons. Most people meet her and only see competence, only see confidence, only see the surface. But you pause long enough to see more. You notice her humor, her wisdom, her warmth, her vulnerabilities, the things she doesn't advertise, the things she doesn't lead with. the things that make her human. And for the first time in a long time, she feels recognized rather than evaluated. Think about how powerful that is. Not because it guarantees a relationship, not because it creates instant romance, but because every human being longs for that experience, to feel known, to feel understood, to feel accepted without having to become someone else first. That desire doesn't disappear with age. If anything, it grows stronger, because as the years pass, people become less interested in collecting attention and more interested in finding meaning, less interested in being admired and more interested in being understood. And that's the truth hiding underneath so much of mature attraction. It's not about chasing excitement, it's about finding emotional resonance. Finding someone whose presence feels like a place you can rest, someone who listens beyond your words, someone who notices beyond your appearance, someone who values the person, not just the presentation. The irony is that many men spend years searching for the secret that makes women feel deeply connected, expecting some complicated answer, expecting some hidden technique. But often the answer is surprisingly human. Be present, be curious, be sincere. Not because it creates attraction, but because it creates something far more meaningful. A genuine connection between two imperfect people. And when that connection exists, something remarkable happens. A woman stops feeling like she needs to protect every corner of herself. She begins sharing more, laughing more freely, trusting more naturally, being more fully herself, not because someone forced the walls down, but because someone gave her a reason to open the gate. And perhaps that's what so many people miss. The deepest touch is never the one that lands on the skin first, it's the one that reaches the heart. The one that says, without saying a word, I see you. And for many women over 40, that is where everything begins.